So a lot of you guys have been asking, how do we get humans to have allies that are AI in infection? We did a video on AI being allied with the infected, but not humans too. I originally replied in the comments what should have been something as simple as just repeating the process, but using the trinity of squad variables to separate the two squads and assign them differently. Oh boy, was I wrong. Me and 9,000 dogs actually had a quite long conversation with tons of trial and error because there were so many blatant issues that we just couldn't figure out. I ended up using a script that was 150 nodes large to make it work. Yes, it was ugly, but don't be intimidated though. You guys know me by now. And if I see a script that monstrous, it won't ever see the light of day until it's efficient and working properly. And today I bring you the good news. The results ended up being 34 nodes. Yep, this was all due to a bug, that treats AI spawned on Alpha Squad as separate squads if they were from another AI spawner and spawn at the same time. Well, enough with the small talk. Let's get into it. So for map setup, all we need to do is just set up our spawners, and the spawners are quite important this time because the way we have to set them up, it's way different than my first tutorial now. I'm telling you, that's why I'm doing a whole different video, because it's just not as simple as it should be. So for this one, we're actually going to name it. I'm going to name this one, since it's going to be allied with humans, Marines 1, because we're going to have two AI spawners. You don't have to, but I'm going to. We're going to, capitalize on the absolute most AI you can have. You don't need 32 AI infection probably, but you shouldn't be limited if you want to. So I'm going to show you how to. You want it to be triggered by script and face forwards on, and squad label is going to be alpha for this first one. I'm going to set a move zone. You don't have to though, but I'm going to. The team doesn't matter because it's going to be in a free-for-all game mode, because infection is counted as a free-for-all game type. Even though it's definitely team-based. But anyway, so I'm going to set these up, all these Marines, all the way up to 8, and then I will get back after that. Okay, they're all set up. They're all Marine survivors, all the way down to 8. You don't have to have 8. I'm just doing this to show you the limits. Now, here's where things get weird. Apparently, even if this is set to alpha, down here in the squad logic, if you use the on squad spawned with squad label and you have two AI spawners that spawn with that, it's going to treat one as an entirely separate alpha squad. Yeah, so anything that affects alpha squad from your variable will not affect this other alpha squad at all, and it's so weird and caused most of the bugs involving this. So that's why we have to do it the way we're about to do it, which isn't too much more work, but it is a bit more. So we're going to change the squad label to Bravo. Basically what I'm saying here is you're going to need to create a new squad. You're going to have to set the squad differently for every single spawner you want to use. So for this example, I'm going to use 2 per team, but that simply means that I'm going to have to use Alpha and Bravo for one team, and then Charlie and Delta for the other, which this will be our banished. So I'm going to change this one to Charlie, and I'm going to go up here and name this Marines, or Banished 1. I forgot to name the other one. Marines 2. Yeah, there we go. And now I'm just going to set up just random banished BS. That doesn't matter, and we'll get back to it once I get those set up. Okay, they're all set up, and I selected just random junk, so I don't really even remember what I set up, but it's not important. It's just the numbers that matter and the fact that they're all banished. And since they have the settings that we require for the most part, so we don't have to do too much extra work, we can just duplicate that there. But we're going to need to change the squad label to Delta. And that's it. That's all you need to do for your map setup. Just keep in mind that if you have more AI spawners for each team, you'll have to kind of do some of these steps that many times. You would have to have, let's say you have 3 per team, you would need to set Alpha Bravo Charlie for the humans, and then Delta Echo Foxtrot for these infected. So just keep that in mind as you go along. So let's go ahead and open up our node graph and get this scripting over with. The first thing we want to start is actually outside of our node graph, and we're going to just grab our spawners and bring them in, because this time we will not be using our waves. And you're probably wondering, well, why wouldn't we use waves? Waves are super simple and they work, they're great. And yes, you're right for the most part, except in this situation alone. I forgot to rename that, but I'll go back and do that in a moment. In this situation alone, they don't work. After about round 3, waves will cease to work. And I don't know why it's like that. In this situation, in this specific scenario, for some reason, they just stop coming. And it's weird. So we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. So we're going to go to logic and grab, no, we're not going to go to logic. We're going to variables basic. Sorry about that. And we're going to grab an object list and plug and play like the old days. Go ahead and plug these in here. Yeah, like that. Now we're going to start with our event, and we're going to go into regular events and on round start. Place it just right here is good. And what we're going to do on round start is spawn all of our AI spawners. And that's why I originally went to logic. Oops. Objects we're going to plug into object list right here. So now all of our spawners, and if you have more, all you would need to do is just duplicate your list and then create a node called it should be an objects, yeah, combine objects lists, and you would just attach both of these to these right here and then attach this to this. But we don't have to do that now because we only have 4. So now we need to grab up here an AI basic, a really old node I haven't used in forever, trigger AI spawner, and we're going to execute that per AI spawner. And there you go. I'm going to move this around to kind of give it a better look because we're going to have some cells here. And what I mean by cells, hey, looks like either a fish or a ship. That's pretty cool. Anyway, what I mean by cells is we're going to be moving things around and having 4 corners because there's 4 sections to this script. One of them is optional, and I'll do that last. But that way the script doesn't look as intimidating to those who don't really like to do a whole lot of scripting. It'll actually be a lot easier when we do it like this. So what we're going to do now is set up a trinity, a holy trinity, but we're not just setting up one. We have to set up a trinity for every squad we have, which is every spawner that we have, and that's 4. So we have to repeat this process 4 times. So you'll have to go to events AI, grab on squad spawned with squad label, and then make sure that each of them say the squad that they're supposed to represent, which is Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. And now we need to, let's go ahead and duplicate this again. We'll change the information on all of these nodes once we get them all out here. So to get this trinity started, we're going to go into variables advanced and get the declare, get, and set squad variables. Okay, now we're looking good. The information is just simply this. We're going to start with alpha. Go ahead and name the identifier alpha, just because, like I say in most of my tutorials, if you're working with the squad variables like get, set, declare, you kind of want to make sure to name them what squad you're working with, just so it's just for ease of access, and just you won't have to second guess what's what, and you'll always know that, hey, this is alpha squad I'm dealing with, you know. And then we have to repeat this process for each and every one of these. But since I did set it up here for this one, you can see it clearly here. I'm going to speed ahead and go ahead and get the rest of these done because they're the exact same process for each one. Okay, all of the information is set up, and you know, just connect squad to value here, connect these 2 diamonds if I didn't cover that already, and you just repeat that for each one of these. So like I said, you'll have to repeat this for every single spawner you have. So if you have a lot of spawners, I'm sorry, but it's just unfortunately the way we're stuck doing this because of the way that the whole duplicating alpha squads and then not treating them both as alpha. You're probably wondering why all of these are up here, because we're going to use them later. I just wanted to go ahead and get them out of the way, because actually we're about to work with them in this next cell we'll be working on. So next is the most important one of the entire thing. This is what you're going to want to pay the most attention to. It's not complicated and it's not very in-depth, but it is what's going to make or break this function. So you're going to go into Events Custom and grab every n seconds. You're going to set this to just 1 second and then set the delay to 0. And what we're going to do every 1 second is check every player in the game. Let's go to Logic. For each object, I would grab for each player, but the object we're actually going to affect is like the one we're going to affect is not a player. So we just use each object, and we're going to go into players and get all players, because that's what we're going to do, and plug it in like that. So there we go, get all players in the game, and what we're going to do is just run through the list of them. And what we're going to do is we're going to check their free-for-all allegiance, which is towards the middle of the players tab, and it's called, yeah, get player free-for-all allegiance, or FFA allegiance. This is just going to say, okay, it's going to get this player. What allegiance does it have? And that's where we're going to use logic compare teams. And it's going to spit out the team that it's using. So it says, okay, this player is aligned with this team. Is this team equal to this team? And that's what we use here. We're going to select Team 2 Cobra. There's a reason why we're doing it like this. This is actually pretty important. Mostly based on a superstition of mine, but it's better to do it this way to be sure. So now what we're going to execute per object is a branch over here in Logic. Plug that in here. Bam. And now we're going to plug the A equals B from our compare teams to the condition. So if the player that it's checking, if it's aligned with team 2, which would be the infected, then true, something will happen. And what needs to happen is pretty much as you would have guessed, we're going to make sure that they're aligned with the right team. So we're going to go to AI Advanced and Ally Squad with free-for-all player. Go ahead and plug that in like that. And this is where we're going to use our get variables. Going to move these up right here. I'm going to go ahead and set up the information on these, but I'm going to do the first one for you. Alpha, because we're going to be using alpha. Scope local on everything, in case I didn't cover that. Unless I say otherwise in my tutorial, I will always be using local. So if I skip over that for any reason, it's just keep in mind that it is local. So anyway, yeah, you'll do Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta the exact same way. Okay, so now that we've got that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move these down here. We're not going to use Alpha or Bravo on that top level because we don't want the Marines who are on the Alpha and Bravo squad. That's something to keep in mind, is always remember what squad your AI are spawned to. So if you want, you're gonna want to make sure to remember that your Marines are Alpha and Bravo, and your Banished are Charlie and Delta. So Ally Squad with FFA player. Oops. You're gonna want to get that. It's the very first node. Place it down. Connect it like this to if true, because this is the Banished one. We're gonna plug our value into the squad. So now Charlie Squad will be aligned with the Infected, which is our one of our Banished spawners. And to do the other, we just duplicate. Plug in the value of Delta into the squad, and ta-da, now we have it. This will get the Banished to ally with the Infected for sure. And we already had that in the other video though. So what we want to do now is we want to make sure that the humans get allied with the Marines. And it pretty much works the exact same way, just from the false branch. Go ahead and plug in squad to the value of each of these, and then connect these two together. Connect this to the false, and yeah, there you go. There's only one thing left to do, and that's connect the player to the current object, because it's going to check every player in the game, and it's going to run this every time. If it's on Cobra, it's going to run this entire branch. If it's not on Cobra, it's going to run this entire branch. So it's going to do that for every single player in the game. So if that's the case, you want to make sure that the player is the one that's being checked is the one that's able to be allied with. Gonna move this around a little bit. There's the reason why I set it up for Team 2 is because I have a strange suspicion that the last man standing in infection is not part of the survivors or the infected squad or teams. And I don't know why I think that. I think it's just where I've had so much trial and error doing this that I just think that's how it goes. But because of that, that's where this comes from, and it really doesn't change anything. It doesn't add any extra nodes or add any extra complexity if you did it the other way. It would just kind of reverse the polarity. You would put Alpha and Bravo up here instead. But yeah, there you go. This will make it happen. This is the script you're wanting right here. Now, do you want them to respawn? That's our optional corner over here. If you want them to respawn, there's our third corner. This is the corner we're going to use for that. It's not complicated and it's not long, so I will show it for those who want their AI to respawn. But if you don't, this is the end of the tutorial. This will get your Marines and your Banished to ally with the right amount of players at the beginning of every single round and stay on the right team. They won't be allied with the enemy team mid-fight because one died and switched teams. So you won't have to worry about that. This will get what you want done. Now, if you want them to respawn, we're actually going to go up here to AI events and grab on squad remaining percent. And we're going to change that to 1. And what's cool is once it reaches 1, it's going to respawn them. But how do we do that? Well, we go over here to logic compare and we grab the compare squads. There's a reason why we're doing it like this. Go ahead and plug squad into squad A, just like that. We're going to duplicate this node 3 times. You're going to do it for how many spawners or squads you have, minus 1. And I'll explain why that is later. But you can go ahead and plug squad A into this squad output every time. So go ahead and do it 3 times like that. Now we're going to make 3 branches the exact same way. We're going to place a branch here, and a branch for the third one. And yes, we will be connecting, you know, pretty much sequentially. The first one to the first branch, the second one to the second branch, and the third one to the third branch. Just like that. This is the method if you want all of your AI to respawn, but I'll show you how to just get specific ones to respawn if you want. Go ahead and plug your first branch up here to that diamond, like that. There you go. And then chain if false to the beginning of this branch, and do the same thing here. There's a reason we're doing it like this. So let's go ahead and grab our trigger AI spawner node right here and place it here. We're going to do this 4 times. There we go. But we only have 3 branches. Well, that's the neat part. We don't have to worry about making a branch for our 4th squad. I'll explain why in just a second when I get this all hooked up. Go ahead and hook the if true up to each diamond. We'll get to that one. Now the AI spawner, alpha. That's what's going to be checking first, and we'll hook that up in a second too. Alpha is what's going to be checked first. So remember, whatever AI spawner you have set to alpha, your first Marines, that is alpha, and you're going to want to make sure that's the one that spawns when alpha is the one that reaches this. Same with Bravo, and you kind of get the gist here. Bravo, and then Charlie. You hook up Charlie to the third one. But what about Delta? Well, we're going to go ahead and hook up the AI spawner to the 4th one right here, which I still need to rename. Actually, I'm not even going to worry about it. It's very clear that's the one that it is. It's got a different name than the others. So now how do we do this? We just plug in the if false. The reason why is it's going to check alpha. Okay, if it's alpha, it'll spawn that. If it ended up being all the AI are dead off of alpha, it's going to do that. If it's Bravo, because if it's not alpha, it's going to say, okay, false, it's not alpha. It's going to go here. Is it Bravo? It is? Okay, spawn something. But if it's not Bravo, it's going to go down here. Is it Charlie? If it is, it's going to spawn Charlie. And then if it's not, we don't need another branch because there's only one other squad that it could possibly be. That's why you only have to do this for however many squads you have minus 1. But you will need the 4 because you'll want to spawn that 4th one. Now we just need the last step for this respawn is just go ahead and plug in your squad variables down there into the squad B of their respective spots. So the first one at the top will be Alpha, the one under that will be Bravo, and that last and third one would be Charlie. And there you go. You don't have to check Delta against it because it's the only one left, so it's being checked against when using the if false. And there you go. Every AI in your map will respawn now infinitely as the game goes on, as long as all their AIs are cleared off their spawn, off their squad. So as long as 8 die from that first spawner, 8 more will take its place. But who's to say you want Marines to not respawn, just like players? The Banished can respawn because, you know, they're infected. You know, just like the infected, they get infinite respawns, so why can't the Banished? If you want that to happen, if you want specific squads to respawn only, just get rid of these. There you go. And then just hook up the squad that you think should respawn here. And if you have 2 squads that you want to respawn but not the other 2, just like we have 2 Banished squads, we can just hook that back up. And all we need to do is create another branch. And the reason you don't want to use the if false though is because you don't want it, you know, triggering you don't want to trigger the spawner if Alpha dies instead of Bravo. Go ahead and use the if false here, and then, you know, plug in your 2 Banished spawners. Yeah. But if you don't want them to respawn at all, you don't need a single bit of that, and this is all you need. So that was the optional bit. I'm not going to have them respawn when I test, but just know that even if they did respawn, this is what will keep them from being assigned a different allegiance, because it's going to check every single second of the game. So that way any change that happens is immediately rectified and fixed and adjusted how it's supposed to be in 1 single second. So let's go over here to infection mode, since we can't test it out in our mode right now in Forge, and give this a try. But yeah, keep in mind there's going to be 16 Marines on my side, and you're probably wondering where they're at, and that's because they already spawned when the game started and ran out there to get destroyed by the Banished. I have 4 bots in the game, so 2 infected, 3 players. See, it's purple. Purple is my friendly reticle color, and then yellow is my enemy reticle color. Marines are going to get demolished, of course. They won't respawn, though. But I'm going to go ahead and finish this round by getting myself killed. Where you at? Come get me. You're not going to be able to get me, but you will. Okay. So now I'm infected. I'm going to go... Alright, there's no way for the bots to kill this last Spartan, and I can't either, so we're just kind of, I'm going to skip to the end of these 30 seconds till the round is over. Okay, so now the round is over, and I was an infected whenever the round ended, but if I'm see, I'm infected now, and these are my friendlies. You don't hear any fighting going on in the inside. Well, they see me, and they just one-tap me with that pistol. Watch out for the Marines. They will obliterate you in infection. Not gonna lie. But yeah, there's those 16. They'll run out there while these guys are still allied with them in here, as you can tell. Oof. So nothing to worry about, and that's how you get it to work. After hours and hours of grueling over this script, I finally got the fix I needed, and now you can officially have humans to ally with the AI, and you can also have AI to ally with the infected as well, although it took a much longer script to make happen. I spent hours and hours just stuck on this. I tried and tried, and at one point I just went to bed and said I would do it tomorrow because it was just so frustrating to find the culprit of the problem. Eventually I did find out what that was, and for some strange reason, if using the squad variable Trinity, it only treats the alpha squad that triggered it last, or any squad that uses that variable with the same label, as the same squad that is affected by the variable. So even if every AI in your map uses the alpha squad label, only one of those spawners will be affected by that, and anything that uses the alpha squad variable. What a mess. But I figured it out, and hopefully this fixes any problems with it. Oh, and before I forget, I may be in the temple right now, but it's only because I'm daydreaming. I actually still out in front of the temple near the chieftain, and do I ever have a special treat for you coming up. I'll see you then.